Neuroscientists are uncovering different ways that musical training improves the function and connectivity of different parts of the brain. Musical training has been found to increase brain volume and strengthen communication between various brain areas. Learning to play an instrument changes, even improves, how the brain interprets and integrates a wide range of sensory information, especially for those who start before age 7. Moreover, we are also seeing how learning to play instruments strengthens the connectivity of nerve fibers and allows better interconnectivity of different parts of the brain in children, adults, and the elderly.
Developmental psychology is a scientific approach which attempts to understand how children and adults change our life. A significant proportion of this research is focused on the development of children, as this is the stage in life where most psychological development occurs. This research field concentrates on biological, social, cognitive, and emotional development of children to adults. The three main goals of developmental psychology is to describe, explain, and optimize development. When attempting to describe development, it is important to also recognize the nature versus nurture debate. Nature in this argument refers to the biological inheritance and maturation. Nurture refers to certain events in the environment which influences the process of learning through experience. Developmental psychology didn't actually occur until after the Industrial Revolution, when the need for an educated workforce became essential to operate the modernized world. As a result, school-based education became more of a focus point, and therefore children was recognized as a stage in life, leading to the rise of psychologists trying to understand the psychological development of children to adulthood. Development occurs into adulthood is a recent study, only enabled by modern medical advances, allowing for us to live to older ages. In the 1900s, the field of developmental psychology was dominated by three key figures: Jean Piaget, John Bowlby, and Vygotsky. Piaget's study was based around the psychological development of children, believed that their mental processes varied from adults, and suggested they go through four key stages of universal psychological development. John Bowlby focused on attachment and theorized that humans biologically came into this world already pre-programmed for attachment. Vygotsky fundamentally worked on social interaction and how this affects cognitive development.
Music interaction significantly improves various parts of the brain. It has been seen to accelerate development, particularly in young children. In relation to the brain, areas responsible for processing sound, language development, speech recognition, and reading skills seems to develop quicker and result in a more improved ability to process information relating to these areas. Given the engagement of multiple cognitive functions in the brain when playing a musical instrument, it would be logical to surmise that these individuals would also have increased and more developed brain plasticity. Among the other intangible improvements, we are also beginning to see anatomical structural differences or presence of increased gray matter in the auditory, motor, somatosensory, premotor, inferior temporal or frontal regions, as well as the cerebellum areas of the brain, of people actively engaged in the learning and playing of a musical instrument to someone who doesn't. When comparing musically trained with untrained children, it is not surprising that differences in the performance of listening tasks and auditory processing are found. For example, it has been shown that children who benefit from musical lessons are more sensitive to the key and harmonics of Western music than untrained children, specifically concerning pitch processing. Musical sounds and all other sounds share most of the processing stages throughout the auditory system, and although speech is different from music production in several dimensions, musical training has been shown to transfer to language-related skills. For example, auditory brainstem responses to stop consonants in musically trained children as young as 3 years is more distinct, indicating enhanced neural differentiation of similar sounds that characterizes adult musicians and later translates into better ability to distinguish sounds in speech. Extensive amounts of research on how music can increase intelligence and make the listener smarter has been carried out. The outcome of this research shows that not music listening, but active engagement with music in the form of music lessons sometimes results in a positive impact on intelligence and cognitive functions.
Psychological development has been seen to be affected predominantly in the young years of life, primarily infanthood to end of childhood, around 12 to 14 years of age. Dominant effect is in the household, and parents can influence the child's behavior and in turn trigger a positive or negative implication on the individual's psychological development. Navaneet will talk about the successful, unsuccessful resolutions of the crisis at these stages in life. Further, the individual's social life also affects how they interact with the world and their actions as a consequence. Here, their psychological development is inevitably shaped to adjust to the social world around them. In addition, the individual's school life may affect their psychological development. School teaches responsibility, initiative, resilience, amongst others, the vital values needed in life. However, underperforming and not fully gaining from school can adversely affect psychological development. So how can we play a musical instrument affect psychological development? As stated above, psychological development can help improve intelligence and the ability to be more social. As a result of more stronger and mature cerebellum, the person's personality and their behavior can be adjusted accordingly to their environment, in turn triggering a successful resolution to the crisis of their development. Lastly, the higher intelligence potential as a result of playing musical instruments can result in the individual having a more enjoyable and fulfilling time at school, all the while gaining the important values and maturity levels to develop into adulthood.
Music can help one identify themselves in Erikson's theory of stage-based development. In the crisis commonly associated with adolescents aged from 12 to 18 years old, learning to play an instrument can help them learn something about themselves, which can edge them towards a successful resolution. The failure of this crisis results in identity confusion, which makes the individual unsure about his or her place in society. By playing music, they can express themselves in a unique way, which can then help them find out who they really are. It can be summarized that music can play an essential role in adolescence, as it can help a teenager examine himself in terms of identity.
This study was conducted to measure how learning to play a musical instrument from a young age can enhance individuals' verbal and non-verbal reasoning capacities. They used individuals with 3 or more years of musical training and a control group of people with no musical training on 2 different conditions. They conducted this experiment in repeated measures experimental design to test both the experimental and control groups on both conditions. The 2 conditions consisted of one auditory discrimination, fine motor skills, and other vocabulary and non-verbal reasoning skills. In this experiment, we see how the musically trained easily outperformed their control counterparts on both conditions. Unlike previous research, instrumental musical training was not directly associated with increased spatial awareness, phonemic awareness, and mathematical abilities. Such an experiment continues to support the growing hypothesis on how playing and learning musical instrument contributes to improving psychological development.
A study conducted by Hyde and colleagues explored how music can affect the brain plasticity. After experimenting on a sample consisting of 6-year-olds, they had concluded that the children who had played instruments had changes to their brain anatomically, compared to those who had no musical training. These changes were applied to the cortical system, the auditory system, and the corpus callosum. Not only do longitudinal studies contribute to new information about the brain plasticity, but cross-sectional studies also play a part in uncovering the information. For example, a cross-sectional study by Banger and Schlog found differences in areas activated music in the brain. They discovered that only the right hemispheres of the brains of violinists were stimulated in terms of hand movement. However, both hemispheres were activated more for pianists. Due to violinists strumming the strings with their left hands and moving the bow using their right arm, their right hemispheres would be responsible for the left hand's movement. Pianists would use both hemispheres, as they use both hands extensively when playing the piano. The study by Bangett and Schlog supports the idea of different instruments improving different parts of the brain. Recent studies have also shown that musical training also helps the brain, in terms of the neurophysiological aspects of it. A study by Lab showed that people who learnt music had a better auditory representation of musical tones from piano compared to people who had no prior musical training.
Learning to play a musical instrument improves the well-being of a person by reducing stress, anxiety, and depression. It reduces the cortisol levels, thus creating a peaceful atmosphere for musicians. A study conducted by Dr. Eng showed that music reduces stress levels significantly compared to random tones. In numerous case studies and experiments from universities in Taiwan and America, music had caused heart rates to significantly lower and also had regulated blood pressure. Music can also help prevent diseases. According to Dr. Eng, the immune system of those that listen to music improved as the system's first line of defense, antibody immunoglobulin, is heightened.